Welcome to Wyrd Wessex. My name is Andy.
And I think I'm Craig.
Where are we, Craig?
We are in West Kennet Long Barrow, which is a Neolithic chambered tomb around 100 metres long and 20 metres wide. The barrow would have originally stood as a striking beacon on the landscape, its chalk construction gleaming white in the sunlight. It was built over 5,500 years ago.
Still in pretty good nick.
Well, that's because it was rebuilt after an archaeological dig here in the 50s.
This long barrow forms one of over 200 barrows in this part of southwestern England known as the Cotswold Seven Group, all created in the early Neolithic period, although the number is possibly much higher. Although possibly Wayland Smithy in Oxfordshire is the most famous.
It was an impressive feat of structural engineering at the time, and of course was a resting place for the dead. A mixture of men, women and children were interred here over the course of a few decades, and there is evidence to suggest that the bones were semi-frequently moved between chambers. It's hard to tell if this was for some form of ancestral veneration, where the bones would be moved entirely, used in a rite and returned, or to make room for more. There is archaeological evidence for feasts and celebrations taking place at the site, including animal bones with the cut marks on them and the sites of multiple fires across the entrance. One man buried in the early period of the barrow and the only complete skeleton on the site had a broken arm and a flint arrowhead located near his throat, perhaps indicating a violent death, although again the placement of the arrow could instead have some religious significance.
The bones themselves were initially believed to have been left out for a form of sky burial or excarnation, where the bodies are left to be picked clean by the birds and the other animals rotting to bare bones before being interred. This was due to the fact that the remains were disarticulated, that is, separated rather than kept together. More recent research suggests it's actually due to them being moved and rearranged, supporting the theory that them being used in rituals or making way for a more recent burial will likely never know the truth.
So there's a belief that it was some kind of ancestor worshipping cult, taking Granny out once a year and asking her to bring you luck and a good harvest. After a few decades passed, the tomb fell out of use and began to decay, some of the walls collapsing. However, a few centuries later, a second phase of burials took place on and off for a few hundred years. At this point, bigger sarsen stones were laid along with chalk, rubble and even bones to fill in the gaps left by the erosion. It was also at this point we started seeing pots and tools interred as well as animal bones.
So each of these chambers held a mixture of bodies?
Yeah, so the one we're in, the remains of at least 5 infants were found.
Oof. That's a good enough argument to move on to another one. Feels a bit Amelia Dyer in here.
Yeah. So around 4,500 years ago, the tomb was sealed and some of the stones used for that still stand in front of the entrance to this day.
But that wasn't the end of the story. Nearly 3,000 years later, Romano-British coins were buried above the entrance in the topsoil. This isn't unusual for Neolithic and Bronze Age monuments in the area, but these weren't coin hoards hidden by people hoping to come back and get them, but they seem to have had all the hallmarks of a religious offering, a practice that I suppose is still in place to this day.
Well, I hope you never take the piss out of hippies leaving coins, ribbons or gems in these places again, Andy.
Yeah, we'll see. So I suppose after it was sealed, the offerings were buried, that's it really, until the 1950s dig.
Not quite. In the 17th century, Dr. Toop from Marlborough led a dig here.
It's funny, you don't really think of archaeology in the 17th century.
Neither did Dr. Toop. He was looking for human bones to grind up and use in his cure-all potions.
Oh.
Indeed. Still, who of us hasn't imbibed Neolithic human remains to cure the sniffles?
Better take Gran out and ask her, she'll know why. So while we're here and we've spoken about the history of the barrow, I think we should go into the folklore attached to this and a few others. But before we do...
We've been talking mostly about West Kennet and focused on prehistory, but Andy, the story of burial mounds doesn't end there. Centuries after those Stone Age monuments were built, the Saxons were raising their own barrows, and some of them hold secrets just as intriguing.
Oh, like what?
We'll take the one excavated not too far from here near Bromham, for instance. Not your average Saxon burial, this one. We're talking high status, possibly a princess, maybe even a royal abbess.
Really? So what makes you say that?
The grave goods, for one thing, a gold necklace studded with garnets and amethyst, gold pins with enamel work, and a gold coin, a tremesis, struck in Gaul. This woman was wealthy and well connected.
That's quite impressive.
And that's not all. She wasn't simply buried in the ground. She was laid to rest on a bed.
A bed? Like a 4-poster with curtains and everything, like all fancy?
Probably not quite that elaborate, but a bed nonetheless. A very rare find in Saxon burials. It speaks to her exceptional status.
Wow.
But it gets even stranger. At each corner of the bed, archaeologists found the charred remains of animals: a dog, a cat, a horse, a fox, and a deer.
Wow, that's 5 beds. 5 corners even. 5 beds, 5.
You can't
I
count.
can't count today. Yeah, that's five animals. Sacrifices then.
Most likely, though, what their significance was, we can only guess. Offerings, symbolic guardians, representations of different aspects of her life, perhaps. It's a mystery. It's a strange mix of pagan practice and Christian belief merged together. And the mystery deepens when we consider who she might have been. David Dawson, the director of Wiltshire Museum, suggested on my other podcast, Will I Viking?
Never heard of it.
She could be the daughter of King Ine of Wessex. Bromham was a royal estate, so it's certainly possible. And the cross on one of her pins, that could indicate a religious role, perhaps as an abbess. So there you have it, the Saxon princess, perhaps even a powerful religious figure laid to rest on a bed with sacrificed animals. It's a reminder that these barrows, they're not just mounds of earth, they're windows into the lives, beliefs, and mysteries of the past.
So, researching the barrow and all the wonderful stories surrounding it, we did stumble across a bit of folklore that we mentioned some of in the past, I think.
I think they might have come up on the previous barrows episode.
Yeah, but we thought we'd go a little bit more in depth here. They say that on the longest day of the year, as the first rays of the dawn pierce the veil of the night, a chilling presence stirs within the ancient West Kennet Long Barrow. A figure shrouded in a ghostly white robe emerges from the depths of the tomb, accompanied by a spectral hound with eyes like burning embers.
Silent and imposing, they stand atop the barrow, their gaze fixed upon the rising sun. As the first rays of sunlight touch the earth, the figure and the hound turn and vanish back into the depths of the tomb, leaving behind an eerie silence broken only by the whisper of the wind through the ancient grasses.
Is it the spirit of a guardian, a priest of old, watching over the souls interred within, or perhaps a restless spirit of one of the departed, forever bound to this sacred ground? Some dismiss it as if mere folklore, a chilling tale of whispers amongst the locals, but others have sworn they've glimpsed the spectral figure, their blood running cold at the sight of the hound's fiery eyes.
It's an interesting story, that one, because it's kind of, you don't think of monks when you think of Neolithic tombs.
No, I imagine it's maybe they saw it and just likened the robes to a monk's robe and just sort of called him a monk.
I guess we don't know what they were wearing necessarily.
Exactly, textiles aren't really things that survive that well.
Yeah, a hooded figure. Spooky.
Spooky stuff.
Who'd spend their night in here? Not me. Let's
Idiots.
hurry up so I can go and drink some wine. So one other story comes from the book Wiltshire Stories of the Supernatural by Sonia Smith, and it goes like this.
Anya hesitated at the entrance, a mix of anticipation and dread churning within her. With a deep breath, she stepped into the tomb. The air was heavy, thick, with a scent of damp earth and the ancient decay. A strange warmth enveloped her, a stark contrast to the chilly wind outside.
The passageway narrowed, leading to a cavernous chamber. It was a room-like space, dimly lit by the flickering candles left by previous visitors. The sight of offerings, candles, fruit, and incense filled her with a sense of awe and a touch of unease. Were these offerings to ancient gods or something more sinister?
As she ventured deeper, a peculiar sensation washed over her, a dizziness, a heaviness in her limbs. She dismissed it at first, attributing it to the confined space and dim light, but she turned to leave, a chill ran down her spine. An unseen force held her captive, a silent, suffocating presence.
A low rhythmic breathing filled the air, a sound both comforting and terrifying. A gentle touch, almost imperceptible, brushed against her skin. A cold dread seized her. She was alone in the darkness, a solitary soul caught in the grip of the unknown. And then in the darkness, it was as if many pairs of hands caressed her shoulders and her face and her back. She struggled to break free, her heart pounding in her chest. She tried to cry for her husband for help, but nothing but a croak came out.
A surge of adrenaline fueled her escape, and she burst out of the tomb, gasping for air. Her husband, alarmed by her distress, rushed to her side. As they drove away, she recounted the terrifying ordeal. Her husband, a man of logic and reason, struggled to comprehend her experience. He dismissed it as a trick of the mind, a product of fear and imagination.
But Anya knew better. She had felt the presence of something ancient, something otherworldly. The tomb, she realised, was more than just a relic of the past. It was a portal to a hidden realm, a place where the veil between the worlds thins.
The devil's humps.
Lovely devil humps?
Exactly. Those lovely Lucifer lumps upon South Downs in Sussex are 4 Bronze Age barrows, but they have their own folklore attached to them. It is said that there was a great battle fought there between the Saxon men of Chichester and a force of raiding Vikings. According to the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, the invaders were put to the sword and their leaders slain and the force sent packing. Those dead leaders were interred within the barrows, their men left out that later became the yew trees that dot the hillsides. Their rest is not a quiet one though, and there's been accounts of travellers seeing wandering spirits of the Viking army, perhaps looking for their bodies where the sun sets and the mist creeps across the downs. Barrows aren't just associated with the dead, but also they have been seen all across Europe as portals to the other world, a place where the veil is thin and one can encounter the others, the little folk, the Fae. It is said that these ethereal creatures open doorways and old mounds, known some as fairy hills, to enter our world. Occasionally, they'll even take mortals back with them.
And what aren't you supposed to do when entering the Fey realm, Andy?
Partake of their food or drink, of course, lest you find yourself enchanted by them. People who partake of these offerings often report time passing in strange ways, and when they...
No. When we last came here, who did we meet?
Well, there's a nice chap staying here in this chamber, actually, for the evening of the solstice.
So a strange traveller living under the hill. What did he offer you?
Whiskey.
Which you drank.
Ah, well, I don't feel enchanted.
You don't look it either. Wyrd Wessex, do as we say, not as we do, right? Talking of fairy hills, we've spoken about Clay Hill in Wiltshire before, a place with many historical UFO sightings. It is also linked to the fairies through its own barrows, of which there are two. A writer in the 1920s by the name of V.S. Manley wrote of the spirit of Clay Hill based on an account gathered by an elderly local lady from the nearby village of Bewgley across the border in Dorset.
God's own country.
The writing was summarised in the Wiltshire Archaeology and Natural History magazine, or WANHM for short.
Do you mean the WANHM?
Yeah.
WANHM, I like
WANHM.
it.
The legend records that the guardian spirit of the Bewgley folk lived inside the barrow on the top of the hill, and one day, hearing water running beneath him, he directed its course underground until it came out at Hog's Well. He told the people not to drink it, but to use it only for curing weak eyes. And an old woman who disregarded his order and drank the water died that night, and a cow that polluted the water was drowned in the mud. It is in any case a fact that until recently this water had been in great request for bad eyes, 6p a bottle being paid for it, provided some ground ivy was included to be brewed with it. The appearance of the well fiend is recorded of Bicker's Well in Princecroft Lane at Bewgley, and under a large oak tree which formerly stood where North Lane meets the Hearth, below Blue Ball, giggity, I mean Bewgley, elves lived and might sometimes be seen gambling by children.
Gambling, yep.
Gambling. They're not gambling.
No, that's what it says. That's what it says. Gambling.
Gamboling. That's different to gambling. Gambling is...
Yeah, that's it. The elves just there playing cards and, rolling dice, betting on horses, fairy horses. There are plenty of other tales of barrows linked to the fairies and the other world. In Yorkshire, Willie Howe is a Neolithic round barrow with plenty of its own legends, ranging from the devil and golden chest, not too dissimilar from those tales of the golden coffins in Wiltshire. Most seem to have gained popularity, or at least written down a century or two ago. There's one that talks of a local man deep in his cups on his way home one night. Now, it may have just been a little bit too much of the good stuff, but he's said to have walked past the barrow, and as he did, he noticed a door appear. Our inquisitive town drunk went inside and found a great hall full of light, feasting and dancing. The Fae were partying. Eventually, noticing him, the fairies welcomed him in. Gathering around him, they offered him up some of the bountiful food and drink. As drunk as our man was, he wasn't so far gone that he didn't remember the wisdom imparted on him by his elders as he grew.
You mean because they didn't have podcasts to tell you these things back then?
Indeed. Not that I listen anyway. He remembered his old nan telling him, "Never take the food and drink of the little people, for once you've done that, they'll spirit you away, and you'll never leave the hill."
So he refused?
He took the offered cup,
and was trapped?
Threw the drink out and hightailed it out of there.
Leaving behind some pissed off fairies?
I'd imagine so. The text states, "A great tumult arose, and he was pursued and only escaped by the fleetness of the beast he rode."
We do not recommend drink riding even when escaping from the other world.
But he escaped nonetheless, and the cup that is described as being a vessel of unknown material that was eventually presented to the King of England.
Is the cup still around?
It was lost apparently, but there is a cup that is said to come from a fairy hill under similar circumstances that's currently in the National Museum for all to see. But I won't go into that now.
You mean you want to get a short out of it?
I want to get a whole episode if I can.
So hang on, this was an actual account.
Yeah, by William of Newburgh, who wrote the Historia Rerum Anglicarum, which details, among other things, stories of revenants, vampires, and more.
His most famous was, of course, the Green Children of Woolpit.
That's the fella, but we're not talking about those today.
So you want to get another episode?
No, there were strange little green people that turned up from nowhere, spoke a strange language, and when they learned English, said they came from St. Martin's Land, where the sun never shone and it was always twilight.
Ah, aliens.
Exactly.
Andy, where did you get that from?
I found it over there.
Interesting.
Good.
No, I'm good. What did we say earlier about fairy food?
So what are we doing now?
Well, I think we'll round off the episode. We should do a little bit where we sit in the dark. I've got some cat balls. So these are balls that are motion censored. So we're going to put them on, and perhaps if they light up, there's something here. And yeah, we'll do that for 5 minutes, and then we'll end up the episode. And hopefully you guys get to have a laugh as we get scared of the dark.
It's worth a go. Let's do it.
Right, so just here there is a cat ball.
There's one just down by Craig's.
There's one there, and there is one. Oh, if I move my leg, you might be able to see there's one just down by me here.
Just there.
So we're going to turn the lights off. Sit here. We've got no way of measuring, but for at least a few minutes, and see whether we hear anything or see anything.
If there is a presence with the cat balls, then they're surrounding Craig. So.
And yeah, so if you see the balls light up, in theory it means something moved them or touched them.
Yeah.
I guess. I don't know. Let's try it.
Ready?
The mouse in here.
Yeah.
It looked like something ran across the floor over there, quite small, mouse
really?
sized. So if you feel something run over your leg, it's a mouse. There is a hole in this corner we noticed earlier.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a rat hole though, I think.
Alright, then what I saw was a rat and not a mouse. Watch your toes. They do bite.
I've got steelies on.
They might steal the balls. Do you see this ball roll across the room? You're not going to talk to the spirits?
Oh, done a bit of that already. There is sort of a sense of peace in a way here, but it's not quite the same as the new barrow.
It's very drippy.
He's very drippy. We were saying when we came up here, it was a very sort of weird sort of feeling night, wasn't it?
Yeah, I don't know. Like last time we came up,
well, the stars were out and
yeah, this felt a bit more, I guess, oppressive and dark and
close, you know.
almost ominous.
I mean, overcast sky with this big sort of dramatic outline of this long barrow.
Definitely feels more oppressive than the new one.
Yeah.
But then we weren't in the dark in the new one.
I mean, I think maybe it's how it's laid out, this one as well, but it does feel just ancient, you know. Well, it is, but you know what I mean.
So in 5,500 years, someone's going to do this in the new one.
I reckon so.
Because it won't be new then. It'll still be new compared to this.
Welcome to Weird New Earth Federation.
As long as I still own the copyright. Yeah, I don't feel like there's anything here. Do you know what I mean? It just feels quiet, droopy.
Like the rat.
I don't know how well you're hearing these drips. There's quite a lot of drips.
Yeah,
Possible rat.
I heard something scratching down where that rat hole is.
So we're now scared of rats, not ghosts. It's not the ghost that made us run from the barrow. It was the rat. We used to keep rats as pets. They are nice.
Yeah, sort of.
Not necessarily wild ones, but yeah.
It's where all the cat balls start flashing at once.
If only. Waiting for the monk.
Wow, it's not midsummer. Also, we don't know what we're picking up on the night cam, you know.
Yeah.
Could be all sorts of horrible, weird stuff happening around us.
Actually, we didn't mention earlier, so a lot of the things that were taken from here are in my local museum, Wiltshire Museum. It's worth a visit because they've got some of the, I would say, some of the better artefacts.
Did you hear that?
What was that? Got to be the rat.
That was louder and that came from over that corner.
That sounded like a footstep. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
And again.
That might have been me flexing my leg.
Oh, he's winding me up, people.
No, the thing over there, though, was definitely not. Oh. I saw something move, but I think it was a big fly. I'm looking towards the entrance now and I think my eyes are playing tricks on me.
What do you see?
Just movement. But I think some of that is, you know, if you stare at a bush for long enough it becomes something. I've got friends in the army who've, like, you know, said you're on stag, you're on, you know, sort of watch at night and, you know, you look at something long enough and you swear there's something coming out of that bush at you, you've just been staring at it for too long.
Your eyes do things in the dark too.
Yeah.
And your senses are heightened.
And you are, you know, that's how we survived, is looking for patterns in things, looking for faces and shapes in things to, like, try and find what predators are lurking out there, so.
It's an interesting thing we've not mentioned as well. So most ghost hunts happen within houses or haunted pubs.
Yeah.
You don't really see, like, most haunted come into West Kennet Long Barrow.
No, exactly.
Derek Okura.
Yeah.
Mary loves Dick.
I know you're Eddie. But yeah. Sam, get him off me, Sam. Yeah. And they did that one in Epping Forest, didn't they? Not quite a Long Barrow, but, you know, it's old bits of it, I guess, but
Yeah.
started screaming about noises in the woods at night. He says getting freaked out by the sounds of raindrops and rats.
Raindrops and Rats, my new album,
There you go.
out next week.
But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's also that story that we told earlier about the lady that came inside and felt hands grasping at her. I believe that was in this chamber, and she felt herself being pulled right towards where we're sitting now, which is a comforting thought, right?
Yeah.
With that in mind, I think we'll wrap it up and turn our lights on.
Yeah, think I'm about ready to go home, have a glass of wine,
Drink some wine, sounds
go
good.
to bed. So yeah, shall we do some weird news? Andy? Where you gone? Andy? Andy? Andy?